and welcome to today's live. I'm Sadie, and every Saturday we come together to talk about building our futures, building our future homes, brick by brick, through land savings and home building in South Africa. Thank you for joining me for today's live. If you're watching the replay, hi and welcome. I'm so grateful to have you here. Today, we're diving into one of the most important topics, something I've received so many comments and emails about. And honestly, it's one of the most misunderstood topics, but I'm really happy that we're actually talking about it. That topic is acquiring land in rural and semi-rural South Africa. So if you're watching the live, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable. This is an audio live, so even if you're driving or ironing, I'm happy to keep you company as we talk about these important topics, right? So today's conversation is really important. Like I said, I've received so many emails and so many comments. People are really interested in how to get started with acquiring land. So if you are just joining, I am going to drop a link in the comments. That link is for you to use if you want to come on the live and maybe have a chat with me. I'm happy to engage and kind of share where you are. If you have some advice, that would be really welcome as well for other people who may be watching this or maybe watching the replay as well. Okay, so yeah, get comfortable. Let's start. We're going to start right at the beginning. So when we talk about land ownership, especially for us future home builders, we usually think of buying land through like an estate agent, maybe signing an offer to purchase and getting a title deed from the deed office. All the traditional ways we see in urban areas, right? But when you're considering building in a rural area, or even a semi-rural area for that matter, just outside like major cities, the process is really different. And it comes with its own beauties, if you will. It's different and in a good way. I'll explain as we go along. And it also comes with a few things that you need to be cautious about, which is why we're having this live right now. So yeah, if you have anything to share, please drop it in the comments. I will reply as quickly as I can. And I will, as soon as I can, drop the link in the comments to actually invite you on if you want to. Yeah. All right, perfect. So the first thing that you need to understand with rural land is that it's not bought, at least not in the conventional sense. So I think when you start this process and you think about rural, but by rural, I mean Mahayeng. I mean that rural, you know? So if you're starting to think about rural, I mean Mahayeng, like rural, on the outskirts where you can hear chickens and birds and everything and all of nature, and you can see cows going to graze. That's what I mean by rural. So that whole process is completely different. So get the concept of buying that land out of your mind. It's not bought in the conventional sense, okay? So what we deal with in these kind of areas is what is called permissions to occupy, right? This is because land in rural areas is not privately owned in most cases. If it is, it's usually in um, what's the word I'm looking for again? Mm. Lintabete. What's the word I'm looking for? I wish you could comment and actually remind me what the word I'm looking for is. Right. So it's usually Emaka. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Shabile. Emaka. So it's, oh, that's the word, trusts. They are usually held, the land is usually held in like a trust. Okay. That is when we can then talk about privately owned in that sense in rural areas. But otherwise, it's communally owned in owned by like a tribal council or by the state on behalf of the community. That's what I mean. Right. So because it's owned in that way, that means you can't technically buy it, if you understand what I mean, right? So then you would then apply for what is called a permission to occupy, a PTO. So it's not a title deed by any means. You can't even use it for as collateral to get something. It's not a title deed at all. It's not ownership in the traditional sense, like I explained. It's permission given by the tribal authority or the tribal council to occupy and use that piece of land either for residential purposes, agricultural purposes, or other purposes that you have been approved to use that land for, right? So here's what makes PTOs special. So the land is still considered communal land, right? It it's either held in a trust by the state or by the tribal authority on behalf of the community. That's number one. You are then granted permission to live there, to farm there, or to build there, but you technically can't own the land in the private property sense that I just mentioned. So your permission is recognized at a local level, but you might not always show up, for instance, at a deed office to say, here's my land, I have a title deed for that land. It's not bad. Just give me a second to explain why this is still something you should consider if this is the route that you want to take, right? So, why it's not bad is because the length of the PTOs that are usually given are around 99 years. So, that then gives you a long enough time to occupy and live and build. And that means then that the land could be in your family for 2 or 3 generations. This is something that has been in my family for 3 generations now, right? So, how do you then get the PTO? That's the part that I want to then explain. So, Jabulile just asked in the comments, where is the place and how much is the price? Thanks for that comment, Jabulile. Like I explained at the beginning of the live, that when you talk about rural land, we don't consider price. We don't consider how much as if you're buying it. Consider it as if you are joining a community. You're asking to be part of their community. You're asking to live with them, and hence the PTO, the permission to occupy. So you buying is really not what's happening here. It's you saying, I want to be part of the community. I want to live with you in that community, right? So that's where we currently are, Jabulile, with that. So if you're looking to buy land like you are looking to buy, I think in the comment that you just sent me, then rural land might not necessarily be what you're looking for, I think, right? Mm. You could tell me if you are really what kind of rural land you're looking for, and maybe if you're even looking for semi-rural land too. I'm not sure. Just maybe elaborate more in the comment. Yeah, I'd be happy to hear what you have to say about that. So how do you get a PTO, right? So how you get a PTO is you approach the tribal office or the tribal council in the area you want to live in. I have received so many emails about this. My response is always very simple. Find the area that you want to live in, that rural area, that specific area, and find out where the tribal office or the tribal authority or the traditional council of that particular area is. Because that's really as simple as it is. You find where you want to live, and then you find the tribal office. From there, they will then take you through the formal application of applying for a PTO. Sometimes you may pay an admin fee of maybe around 300 Rand. That's nothing compared to what we talk about when talking about land in the urban areas. And sometimes that land is also free. And by free, I mean you may not even pay any admin fees at all, right? So that's really the essence of where it is, right? So once you've done that, they will, in most cases, take you to where the land is available, if it is available. And if it isn't, they will also tell you that they don't have any land available for people to occupy for residential or other purposes. So depending on the availability, they will allocate you some of the land. And sometimes, depending on what the rules are in that community, they will also allocate you or not allocate you some land. And sometimes, in some communities, it also depends on family lineage, right? It depends if your people, have lived in that area before. If they have, then it may be easy for you to acquire land in that particular village, or it may not even be an option. Like I said, you're not buying, you're asking to be part of their community. Okay, so Rishebile just sent me a comment. She says, what happens if you have no roots to the community? Is it still possible to obtain a PTO? Yes, it is still possible to obtain a PTO if you are not from that area. This is something that wasn't always the case, and maybe even in some communities it still isn't. But people today are able very easily, with kindness and respect, I hope, to still get a PTO even if you're not from that area. In the video that I made, I shared something that I got from a lady who really provided quite a lot of value, because she wasn't from the area in KZN, but she ended up moving to that village in KZN and building her house there. She says that building or even being able to acquire land there kind of required her to be part of a process. What do they call it? Ukubikwa or something like that. I'm very sorry for butchering the pronunciation, but she kind of had to go through a ceremony of some kind where she was then introduced to the community. Remember what I said about asking to be part of the community and not necessarily buying? That's the mindset shift that you have to change when you talk about rural land. Think about being part of the community and not necessarily occupying land or buying it just so that you can live there. That's not how it works at all. Because they will want to know you. They want to know who you are and where you come from. Okay. Yeah, so that's that. It's still possible, Rishabile, to actually get a PTO even if you're not from that area. The admin fee I found has kind of been changed for people who are not from that area. They could kind of charge you, for the lack of a better word, a bit more than somebody who is from there. For instance, somebody whose family lineage is originally from that place could get that land for free, and you could have to then pay maybe twice what the admin fee could be. You know how these things go. It's almost like, South Africa. I don't even need to elaborate further about money and South Africa, and you know the story. You know the story. Okay. Yeah, so it's still possible. That's the bottom line. So for the person who actually sent me the previous comment about um, buying and prices and that sort of thing, I think the best route would be to go the urban route, maybe the semi-rural, and find a place where they have kind of sectioned a piece of land and are kind of cutting different stands for people to buy. This is something that was offered to me in the outskirts of Pretoria for around 30,000 rand. And it wasn't something I was up to doing at that time, so I didn't really take up the offer. But the area has developed quite well, and people are building really nice houses there. And if it's something that you are interested in, maybe in the outskirts of Pretoria, I can still ask if land is still available in that area. One thing that did not work well for me is because agona dikgomo. Got it? That's the mark for me. If there's no livestock, it's not going to work. So there isn't livestock in that area. So it wasn't rural enough for me, although the community is really well. It's coming on well. So yeah. So right now I'm just going to drop the link in the comment section. And if you want to use it to chat with me, you are welcome to just click on the link and come on live, and we can have a further discussion about maybe some question you need clarification on and that sort of thing. I just dropped the link in the bio. You can simply click on it and it'll bring you just straight into the live, right? So the process of acquiring land is honestly very, very simple. And I think it's overcomplicated for people who don't know how it really works, but it's very, very simple. Very, very, very simple. Simply decide on where you want to live, either in the Northwest, Limpopo, or maybe Pietermaritzburg, and find the tribal authority or the tribal council in that area. Approach them about how to acquire land in that place. They will tell you if it's available or not. And if it is, they'll take you to see it. Usually people in the rural, they're very kind, very, very kind and welcoming if you are sincere about wanting to be part of their community. No problems at all. Right? So I explained that in my case, the land has been in my family for 3 generations. And I could say 4 because I now have a child as well. So we could then say it's been in the family for 4 generations with no issues whatsoever, just the PTO. Okay, so you're welcome to use the link. And yeah, I'm happy to have a chat. Let's see. Okay. I'm happy to have a chat. So let's kind of branch into a little bit of the semi-rural areas, which are a little different from the all rural areas that I really want to focus on. The semi-rural areas that I spoke about are on the outskirts of major cities. So depending on where you are, it may not be available in your area, that sort of thing. But on the outskirts of Pretoria, on the outskirts of Polokwane, on the outskirts of Rustenburg, I know for a fact, and on the outskirts of probably Pietermaritzburg. I'm not sure about the Western Cape, but definitely in areas that are quite smaller and not hustle and bustle like Johannesburg, then you can definitely find an area. So if you can just share with me, what areas are you looking to get land in? If you could just Give me like a bit of an idea of where you are actually looking to acquire land. You can share that in the comments, or you can just hop on and we can have a chat right here on the live. I'm happy to chat with you if you want to. I'm also happy to continue to keep you company and kind of expand on this topic so we can learn more. And I'll definitely explain it more for you to feel confident in being able to acquire land in rural South Africa. So, where are you looking to acquire land? Right. While you tell me, I'll just go back to sharing that I was offered a piece of land on the outskirts of Pretoria, like I mentioned, for 30,000 Rand. And that area isn't necessarily under a tribal authority, but it is land that has been sectioned off and people are buying stands and selling them themselves. Um, this is something that is happening not just in that one area, but in a few other areas around Pretoria and Rustenburg as well, right? So, like I mentioned, I ended up not taking that offer because I want something very rural, very peaceful, very quiet. And yeah, that's where I was with that. So, I really want to tell you something that is very important when you go on this journey. While you tell me where you want to acquire land, it's very important to be careful as you do this process because there are a lot of people who are scamming other people, telling them that they can get land when in actual fact the land isn't even available or properly allocated to even be for residential purposes or for people to live on and build on. And this has led to people having their homes destroyed, and by destroyed, I mean demolished after building, right? So I really want you to be very careful when considering this, which is why I say the best route to take is the one of going straight to the tribal authority, straight to the traditional council yourself. So take time out of your day, maybe your time, I don't know when, and identify that area and go to that place, right? So Nelisiwe just shared with me that I'm looking to acquire land in the rural areas. I currently live in KZN, Newcastle. I like the land in the rural because of how big their cuts are. That is absolutely true, right? Oh my goodness. This is also one of the things that I consider very highly when looking for land is how big the plots are. And honestly, the urban area plots are no. I'm not gonna lie and say no, no, it's not okay at all. The sizes are so small that all you can build is a house and nothing else. You can't have a garden or a front yard or anything where you can actually live and enjoy the space at all. So I agree with you, Nelisio, on that one. Reshabile just shared that I honestly need to decide. I've been to rural KZN, and that is where I fell in love with rural life. But I'm based in Gauteng, so KZN is too far. Okay, I will look probably Rustenburg or Polokwane. Okay, perfect. That makes sense. Because if you are based in Gauteng, like you mentioned, it might not be easy to always go to these places that are kind of far out. Rustenburg is still a drive from Gauteng, depending on where you are in Gauteng. And Polokwane is even a further drive from Gauteng, you know what I mean? So knowing exactly where it is helps. In the video that I shared towards the end, I shared a list of tribal offices. So depending on like the province and that, you can then go to that list and look at some of those areas and see if it's maybe an area that you would be interested in, right? So yeah, it may not be um, feasible, easy to drive out to those places if like you live in Gauteng. I know. So Rustenburg is also absolutely beautiful. It's something that is good to consider, that particular area. For instance, the villages like Halong, what's the other one? I know this because my friend lives there. I just keep forgetting the name. Um, I almost said Page, but Page is not there. Page is in another area in Mpumalanga, which is also great. It's such a good village, Page. And where else? Um, I want to remember the name of that village. It seems my memory is really just abandoning me for this live. I wish I could text her and say, what is the village? Modulang Rustenburg. I just, at a high level, you just always say Rustenburg and never really say like Halong or it's on my tongue. I promise. It's on my tongue. Oh, Mudimu. Yeah. When I remember it, I'll type it in the comments. Even for those people that are watching the replay. Yeah, so that's where it is. You should definitely look towards Polokwane. Those places are really good. They are developing the area really well. Um, so yeah, if you are really serious about it, I think maybe take time out and go there. Go there, definitely. So with rural land, I think there's something many people underestimate, and that something is the sense of community, right? When I started the live, I said that rural land isn't about buying land. It's rather about asking to be part of the community. So when you move to a rural area or a semi-rural area, you're not just getting land, you're joining a community. People in that area know each other. Families have lived there for generations, like my family. There's a deep sense of ubuntu, right? And of looking out for one another. It's always been like that. So you'll often find that neighbors help each other build. They fix fences. If you need help, things are always easier in the rural area because people help each other, right? So these are things that you never even think about in the urban area because everyone just minds their business, right? But that also means that respect is very important. It's important to respect the tribal office, the tribal authority, the chief, the king, if there is, and to respect the customs. It's important to attend the community meetings. It's important to even introduce yourself when you first arrive, so people to know you, to trust you, and for you to also find support, right? So they will just send a comment saying, "Hi, City. I reside in Pretoria and would have loved to acquire in Gauteng." Hey, Tebogo. What you're just saying to me right now is something I know too well. Hey. So Gauteng, but I would love to acquire land in Gauteng, but lots of fly-by nights. So Northwest would do. Perfect. Get it, Tebogo. Lots and lots and lots of fly by nights. You will get scammed. Okay, you will get scammed. So honestly, if you are to buy in Gauteng, I'd say maybe consider the deeds office route where you have a title, because it can never be, unless it's like a serious legal scam where the land that you buy has already been bought by someone else. But in these scams that Debo was talking about, like, I think, which is what I've seen also, or like people buy get sold like the same land. Do you know what I mean? Like they get sold the same land, and you find out like this particular paper that you have, somebody else also has it, and who gets to occupy my bond? So it becomes a problem. Yeah, lots of fly by nights, lots and lots of fly by nights. Even on Facebook Marketplace, hey, it's a problem. It's a problem, and the more we actually talk about it, I think maybe the worse off or the better it would be. I'm not sure. It's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way, because now even the scammers know that we're looking for land. And I guess, I don't know if that helps in any way, because then, but it also is quite good that we're talking about it, because then you know the pitfalls. You know that in Pretoria there are fly by nights, they're fly by nights. So also, Northwest is great because it's very close to Pretoria if that's where you work, and you know it's easy to kind of commute if you're in the Brits area. Please look at Brits, Tebogo as well. Brits is great because they're actually villages very close, um, but just like on the border of northwestern Gauteng. There's like villages there, so you can also look at Brits. Please consider it if Northwest is your area. Consider Brits. There are villages there before you even get to Rustenburg. Okay, yeah, and they also have like tribal offices there as well. Yeah. Hmm. All right. So, like I said, I dropped the link in the comments. If you want to come on and chat with me, you're welcome to. I'll drop it again so we can just have a discussion. Right? Like I said, this is an oh, perfect, perfect, perfect. I please come back and update us and tell us about the land that you found in the Northwest, because it's a good area. It's a good area. So the link is in the comments, and you can just use it to chat with me if you have any like direct questions, or you want to maybe give some insight that someone may not really know, right? So the outskirts of Pretoria, just like they were said, which is not always a fly by night. It's not always, but mostly a fly by night, but not always, right? For instance, in I think Mami Lodi, right? If you know Pretoria, you would know this. And there's like a tribal authority, and it has changed completely from what it used to be. Like it's not a rural area in any sense. It might be considered semi-rural, like maybe township kind of place, but it's if you know what I mean. But it's still something to consider. You have to be very, very careful though. So if you're thinking that rural areas are great, but you probably need to stay close to like maybe your job or even job opportunities if you're in that kind of space, I think you should consider those semi-rural areas. So sometimes, like I said, they have townships, but they still operate under traditional councils. Like an example is Mamelodi, which has a tribal authority still, right? So you might find like a mix of like some plots are sold with title deeds, and some are still kind of given over with like a PTO. So it can definitely be a mix even in that area. Okay, so that's the semi-rural example that I have today. So, and prices, even in semi-rural areas, tend to be lower than urban land. For one, in the video that I shared, I shared that a stand was listed for like 450,000 rand. Honestly, I'm not trying to get into debt doing this. I honestly just want to build a suitable home for me and my child, not necessarily get into debt that I would have to pay back for like years on end. No, I've made that decision that that's not the route I want to go on. I don't want to get into any kind of debt on this journey at all. So that's why rural land is kind of in my radar, because not only is it more reasonable, it's actually more peaceful too, right? So in last week's live, I talked about, is it last week? No, the week before that, before we had like the Easter break, I talked about the hustle and bustle. And that's kind of where I am, trying to slow down and kind of live a different life than the one where we have to go, 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 chasing, chasing. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. You may relate or maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, rural is all about the peace. So yeah, something I want to share also about rural land is that you may be required to pay like an annual fee. You may know this if you've watched the video. You may be required to pay an annual fee. The one that I personally know of in that village, you pay just about 300 rand a year. Most people, shame, most people don't do that. Most people don't pay. Wrong, right? Wrong. Why don't you pay the tribal council? Why lisabhadeli moshadi? Wrong. But most people just get away with it. They don't pay at all. So I don't know if you'd be able to do this if it was like a body corporate. You wouldn't be able to do that, right? You wouldn't be able to get away with not paying the body corporate, but you can get away with not paying the tribal office. Yeah. So we are at about 30, close to 40 minutes of the live. Please join me. Please join me. I know some people say they like the sound of my voice. They just want to listen to me as they cook, as they clean, as they feed their child. I'd love to have a discussion. I really look forward to these lives because then I can kind of interact and have a chat. Oh, perfect. Nelisiwa just sent a comment, said, yes, annual fee yearly. We currently pay 150 Rand at home. Yes. See how little it is? It's almost a year. It would be considered almost nothing a year, right? So it's just being part of a community. You just have to look at it that way because everyone knows each other. Everyone helps each other. There may be politics here and there, but the village life is beautiful. I love living and will continue to live in the village in this case. It's really, really good. So that's Nelly Stewart telling us that it's 150 in her village. So the annual fee is very, very small. You won't even feel it. It's nothing like a levy. It's nothing like rates and taxes. It's nothing like that at all. It's so small and so insignificant without being sounding disrespectful. But that's, compared to the other processes that we know, it's really, really small. So I want to caution you, if you just joined the live and if you've been watching, that not every piece of land is safe to occupy. Okay, not every piece. There are some areas where the land is under dispute. You may not know this outright, but maybe there's a court case between the tribal authority and a private buyer, or just the land itself, whether it belongs to the community is still in dispute. It could be that there's like a case in court over that particular piece of land. So this is me cautioning you. Or it could even be that two families or people could claim the same piece of land. That's why you have to do your due diligence and be very, very careful when you do this. I know it's exciting to acquire land and finally feel like you're making that dream come true, but just caution first before anything. It's very, very important because it would be such a shame to find a piece of land that you love and want to live on, only to find that there's like an issue, like a dispute, and you would then have to move or have your home demolished after building. That is an absolute tragedy. Like it would, It would kill me, I'm sure. God forbid. But yeah. Yeah. So not every piece of land is is safe to occupy. That's why it's so important that you do your due diligence. You don't want to spend your savings, the ones that we're working hard to save, the ones that I keep updating you with, like, this is me and my 32-day Capitec account. You don't want to lose those savings only to find out that that land was not properly allocated. So I'm just going to share with you like a checklist that you can maybe listen to another time and go back to this live if you are in that process and you find yourself in Northwest Tebogo or anywhere, Nelisiwe, in KZN, and you're asking yourself, okay, I've gone to this tribal authority. I have asked about this land. Maybe they've shown me. Maybe this you could use this checklist to kind of do your due diligence before accepting that offer, or maybe even applying for that PTO. So first, I would say confirm that the traditional council or the tribal authority has authority over that land. Confirm that, right? How you can confirm that is you ask the people that live there. Remember, we're talking about rural land that has been in families for generations, like my family, for one. So you take your time and you go around and you ask, how long have you lived in this area? Who do you know from the tribal authority? And where is the tribal authority? That is your confirmation that, that traditional council, not the one set up on the corner of a school library that you don't even know if it has authority or not. So confirm not only that it's legit, but also that the land is not under dispute. And how to do that is to ask direct questions, like ask if there are any pending disputes or court cases involving that land. And if you find people living peacefully, that should tell you that, and for a long time, that is not peacefully for like 5 years. 5 years is not a long time. Peacefully for, decades, that tells you that, I mean, no, yes, court cases do take quite a long time, but I wouldn't say that they take 30, 40 years, so that dispute would be settled by then. So yeah, confirm that the tribal authority has the tribal council has authority over that land. Ask if there are any pending disputes or court cases involving that land. Number 3 on the checklist is to get your PTO in writing. Oh, I can't stress enough. Get it in writing, get it stamped. If they have a stamp, get it recorded, get it in writing. We don't deal with the word of mouth when we talk about things like this. Just get it in writing. Please don't feel anxious about asking for a document or having something in writing. Please don't do that. Just remember the savings that you're going to then use to build that home, how important they are to you. So get that CBIT and ask for that PTO in writing. Don't just let someone confirm with you that, oh, here you go. This is your piece of land. Now you live here. Do you know what I mean? Don't do that. Just please confirm that PTO in writing. If they have a stamp at the tribal office, get it stamped. Usually they should, honestly. I mean, these things are legislated. We have a whole department of traditional affairs and stuff. So this is not something we need to get into about whether or not we can get that document in writing. It's very important that you do. The next thing, if you are happy with the land that you have been shown or allocated, ask yourself if Not even yourself, ask if that land has been surveyed, number one, and if water and electricity has actually been, is the right word installed? I don't know. Help me, my English data bundles are escaping. They are doing a runaway. I don't even know what the right word is. Ask if, ask, I'm so sorry to laugh. Ask if water and electricity have been installed in that area. And usually in places where if you know what I mean, emakhaya. Emakhaya that have been established for a long time, ahuna issues of whether there's electricity or water. The stand that I was offered, yeah, 30,000 Rand, there is no electricity even to this day. That was in 2021, okay? There is no water connected to any of those plots, right? It's just an area that has been sectioned off, and people are just building homes just like that on that area. So it asks if there's water and electricity. That's another point on the checklist. Then I would advise and recommend that you visit the land multiple times, not just once, and then you sign your PTO and you maybe you pay your admin fee. It's nice to think that because of how low the admin fee usually is compared to like buying a piece of land for 450,000 that you could probably go around occupying or even acquiring pieces of land literally in Polokwane, Rustenburg, Brits, outside of Pietermaritzburg, guy. You could think that it would be that easy, but it really doesn't work that way. You know, it really doesn't work that way at all. Because here's the thing you need to know. If you do not occupy, if you agree in the form of a PTO that you would want to join the community and be part of them, you are then saying that you are actually serious about it, right? That's why respect in these areas is so important. And if you change your mind, or maybe you decide, okay, no, I'm just going to live in Gauteng for a little bit longer and not actually like build or anything, which makes sense. I understand. I really do. Your land can be allocated very easily to someone else. This is not a joke, it's real. Okay? Your land can easily, without question, be allocated to someone else. And you will lose that plot that you have said in a PTO. It's a permission, remember, not a title deed, right? It's a permission to occupy, not a title deed. So that doesn't mean, Hore, you are the registered owner. No, you are just a recognized landholder. So Bamitele said in the comments, ooh, okay, is there ukubekwa endaweni? Great question. And then the next question she said, is there also, okay, I can't pronounce the word. I'm very sorry, Bamidel. Yeah, I'm very, very sorry. You know, 11, 12 official languages, we kind of have the wires crossed sometimes, and it's kind of difficult to say some of the words. Very, very sorry. So I'm going to address the Ukubekwa question that she said, because I have a reference about ukubekwa endaweni. This is something that happens in KZN. And I'm pretty sure Nelisiwe could probably elaborate further on Bamidele's question if this is something that has been, you know, a practice in your village, if you know about that. But I know for a fact that ukubekwa endaweni happens in some communities in KZN, where you have to then take part in a ceremony where you buy alcohol and you prepare food, like, you know, a ceremony where you then get introduced to the community. That's what it means, I guess, to ukubekwa endaweni in KZN, that is. So this is not something I am familiar with personally. By personally, I mean Gauteng, Northwest, Limpopo. I could and parts of Mpumalanga. So those are provinces that I have personal connection with. I am not familiar with ukubekwa endaweni in. I'm not familiar with ukubekwa endaweni in those four provinces I just mentioned. So yeah, in KZN, definitely. Please check out that video about acquiring land that I made. There's a particular section where a lady explains it so well, I had to share. So she explains it so well. She isn't from that particular area. She wasn't even familiar with Ukubekwa in a sense, but she also took part in that ceremony and was welcomed very well in that community. So Reshabile says, someone said it to me, wait for the rain before you sign a PTO because the soil is sometimes the issue. Okay? Because the soil is sometimes an issue. This is on the checklist of points to consider. Part of your due diligence is also, remember what I said about going there a few times. Don't just go there once. Visit the area, visit the land multiple times. Visit it in the rainy season, visit it in the dry season. See what it looks like, you know? Some areas, I'm familiar with this particular village where yeah, thinking about it actually brings back the worry about the worry I have about that particular place because it is so bad in terms of soil that you can't drive a car when it's raining. It's not possible. You just can't. Sorry, I don't know. Maybe like what do they call these? You just can't. You just can't. It's not a laughing matter. It's not even funny. But Reshabile is right. Wait for the rain. Go there with that rainy season before, right? You ask to join the community. Go there before. So Nelisiwe just confirmed that in her village, no, not actually confirmed, but she just mentioned that in her village, they just allocate you a plot and that's it. No ukubekwa endaweni, right? So for Nelisiwe is actually in KZN, right? That's where, yes, that's where she currently lives. She currently lives in Newcastle. So, and they pay annual fees of like 150 a year, which I'm familiar with as well. I can confirm the annual fees. But not ukubekwa endaweni. That doesn't happen where she actually lives. So, okay, Bamidele just sent a few questions. How do you know if the land is under Ingonyama Trust? Very good question that I do not have a full answer for. I know about the Ingonyama Trust. I know that it holds the what's this? The communal land in KZN, maybe a large part of KZN that is. I don't know if the land you are referring to is under the Ingonyama Trust. You would have to confirm that with people that actually live there. So that's why it's important to go. So Google just shared that please give some monetary amounts that you have come across in terms of acquiring land. Okay, perfect. And then just quickly, how is land demarcated in a village? Perfect question. And is the Konza fee corrupt? Konza fee, please elaborate a little bit on the Konza fee for somebody who is not familiar with it, like I am not familiar with it. It seems Bamidele is kind of in the KZN space, which I am absolutely in the least not familiar with, right? So I know for personal experience, Gauteng, Northwest, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga. Perfect. So Google shared some monetary amounts that you have come across, that I have come across in terms of acquiring land. So the monetary amounts are two amounts, Google. The first one is the admin fee, the fee that you pay when you apply for that PTO. And that admin fee is essentially not even more than 1,000 rand in some cases. In the places that I know of, it's not even more than 1,000 rand. In the village in KZN where that lady specifically lives, if you watch her full video on her channel, you will then see that she speaks about amounts that are like considerably high, especially if you're not from that area. But if you are not in KZN, like outside of KZN, the amount is not even more than 1,000 rand. 1,000 is even a lot. It's too much. It's too much. It's a lot of money. 1,000 rand is, when we talk about tribal authorities that I am talking about, it's too much. It really is. 1,000 rand. You're not buying land, remember. You are just paying an admin fee and simply asking to be part of the community. That's all. So the other fee is the annual fee. In the village that I know of in Rustenburg, where my friend lives, they call it a rental. Okay, the rental is around 300 rand a year. So it's really very small, you know. It's nothing compared to a levy or rates and taxes. It's nothing at all compared to that. So those are the two amounts that you will come across. And if you are in KZN, you may even incur the cost of maybe doing the ceremony and buying the alcohol and, you know, that sort of thing, and making, cooking for people and that sort of thing to just do the ceremony. But otherwise, if you're not in KZN, it's shouldn't even be more than, just always just keep your eyes open. If somebody tells you that rural land is around 30,000 from a tribal office, it's a scam. It's not possible. You cannot acquire a PTO for 30,000 rand. You are not buying the land. You're simply asking to be part of the community, right? So the other thing I think is very important is to do the due diligence yourself. Go there yourself. Don't send anyone. Go there yourself, right? So yeah, go there yourself. Go there yourself. Okay, so going back to the checklist, visit the land multiple times, ask the neighbors about the history. The point of visiting the land multiple times is so that you can see it in different seasons, right? Before you commit and say that you like it, you want to live there. The other thing is to confirm the land boundaries clearly. Confirm the land boundaries clearly. It's very easy to confirm land boundaries in a place that has been surveyed, in a place that is surveyed by the municipality, and there's water and electricity available in that area. But if it isn't, and people are just sectioning off areas, it may be kind of difficult, or you are completely in the outskirts of some place, it may be hard to have that land, you know, demarcated and, you know, set boundaries upon. The video that I shared, I just want to say this as a cautionary note as well. It may not even be anything of, anything to concern yourself about, but it depends. It depends. The lady in the video said that they didn't really specify where her land ends, and that is because it goes down to a river or a stream somewhere. I found that very problematic. I found that very problem. Why I find that very problematic is because it's very easy. We know how corruption works in our country. We don't need to hide. I get it's very easy for someone whose hands have been buttered well to say, well, you can kind of live here. And that here could be right in your garden. Then what are you going to do? Do you know what I mean? So that is really a problem. I found that like it raised eyebrows for me. Like, how is it possible that your land hasn't been properly demarcated? Like, you actually need to know where it ends. And she's like, no, it starts here, but it ends somewhere where I don't know. Hey, yeah, that's a problem. But you really need to know clear boundaries. So part of your checklist of due diligence is knowing the clear boundaries of where your land starts and ends. You need the four corners. Otherwise, it's a no from me. So Google is asking, is electricity prepaid most of the time? Yes, the electricity is prepaid most of the time. I say this from personal experience. In your village, who isn't allowed to be allocated land? In my village, I mean my family's village, the village that I know of personally. In that village, everyone is welcome. It seems in the recent years, it has kind of become something I can't explain, but everyone knows everyone. That's the kind of village that it is. But everyone is welcome. We have people that live from like, I don't know. I don't want to say the words. Hey, Lilin. Then you're gonna send the police. I don't want. Right? Then you're gonna, no, no, no. I can't say the word that starts with X. I can't say that word. So, yeah, just know where there are people, even people who hold passports. Let's just say that. Yeah, it's fair. Let me say passports. Passport, maybe residence permit, those people who hold that kind of documentation also now live in the village where my family lives. So, Gugu asks, little Taris. Ah, man. So Google asks, um, yes, so Google asks, so they send water bill. How do they send? Tebogo. Tebogo le tontaris. Okay. Let's be serious. We are future home builders. But you know what I mean? The people who hold passports, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So how do they send a water bill? In my Roshebile, I'm trying to be serious here. Yes. It's in the recent years it has changed to that, eh, I don't know. I don't want to sound like, let me not share my personal sentiment. You know what I'm talking about, guys. Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend. Please, Kalukopen, let's not pretend. How? Yo? And then I'm the one who gets in trouble. Please, no. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to confirm nor deny, Reshevi. No, I can't say that. So the water bill in my family, we have a borehole that has been installed for as long as I can remember. In other homes, in other homes around my family home, um, they have water from the municipality that has been installed. They don't get a water bill per se, right? We have received, I recall one particular year or a few times, I think, where a water bill sort of was sent, but it was kind of strange. And I was kind of shown this particular document where a water bill or a bill of some sort was sent from like the municipality, wherein number one, it couldn't have been true that that water bill was actually, from my family, that is because of the borehole that has been there forever, right? Even before, okay, even before the, okay, I will definitely answer your question about the breakdown of the fees. So even before water was installed by the municipality, there was always a borehole. So the water bill that was sent by the municipality is not something that was entertained in that way because it didn't make sense. But for people that live around my family, they have water from the municipality. The problem though with that water is that it's always out. It's always out. There's never water, So because of that, they always come to our home in a sense to get water because of that. And obviously in the recent times we've seen water tanks around even urban areas, surprisingly, where municipalities have to be on top of their game, but they're not. So yeah, hey, it's bad, So Google just sent in a comment. It's the government corruption, people. It isn't supposed to be like that since there are a lot of local people that don't have land. That is absolutely true. It's not. It's not supposed to be that. There's vast amounts of land in South Africa. Vast, vast, vast. It pains me so much when I see people on Facebook Marketplace trying to get land or even ask each other like, okay, so where can you find like a stand, and I'm like, don't even do that, don't do that. If you really want to live in a rural area, identify that rural area and go to the tribal authority yourself. It's that simple, and you'll just pay a small fee to say, Bagaetsho, I just want to be part of this place, I want to occupy the land, and that's it. And they are very happy, very welcoming to show you around, and that's it. It doesn't even have to get to Facebook. It doesn't even have to get to it being a scam. It's very, very simple. It's not even complicated in any way. So don't feel afraid about this process. The only thing that you need to do is make sure you follow that checklist that I mentioned, right? Do your due diligence and go to the area multiple times, even in the rainy season, like Rishebile mentioned, right? Right. So IK says, asked for me to break down the fees to buy the land, like I mentioned at the beginning of the live. Very small fee, 300 Rand to 500 Rand, even less. And sometimes in some tribal authorities, the chief will give you the land for free and say, here, my child, you can live and build your house. You just want to be part of our community, you're welcome. Very simple, just like that, and then you can then build. But the caution here is that sometimes if you don't build after a certain time, they can reallocate that land to someone else. It's a possibility when you get a permission to occupy. It's not title deed. You don't own that land in the traditional sense. And the other fee is the yearly fee that I also mentioned, which is that it's the 300 Rand that my friend currently pays. In my family, we don't pay anything. They don't pay anything. They haven't been paying anything. They are the wrong ones, Bila Bila. Let's just say that. They don't pay anything. That's wrong. I don't think they would get away with that if it was a body corporate, if it was a municipality rate and tax, that bill that they got, they wouldn't get away with that. But they do at this point. So yeah. And Nelisiwe mentioned that in her family they pay 150 a year, which is the fees IK for acquiring or even keeping or continuing to occupy that land. So I just want to say this again. Oh yes, oh yes. I'm going to answer Bamidele just now. IK, that you don't buy land in rural South Africa. Please just erase that idea from your mind, unless it's privately owned somehow. Maybe you can confirm with the deeds office that that land is on their deeds registry. Then fine, we can talk about buying. But in the way that we're talking about today, we don't talk about buying. We talk about permission to occupy, essentially becoming a recognized landholder, not a landowner, right? So, yeah, so that's the government corruption that Gugu just talked about. Bamidele just sent in 3 questions, I think. Is there any land available without annual property taxes, rates, or rents? Absolutely. Like I've just said from personal experience in my own family in the village that I am personally familiar with, there are no rates or taxes of any kind. The only thing is the rental that people are not very compliant with paying, unfortunately, but the rental is so small. It's not even 500 rand, or it could be 500 rand or less, that you know you are required to pay to the tribal office every year, just to continue to occupy and be part of the community. It's a community effort. It could be for something, or I don't know, something. Honamo. So it says here, Bamidele says here, do chiefs have the power to banish you from the community? And my short answer for that is yes, they do. And not necessarily the chiefs themselves, but you have to remember that because this is communal land and because you don't really own it in that way, respect is very important. If you are problematic, you can be banished, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, from the community, because what value would you be adding for them to say that you need to continue staying when in actual fact you have to go? So if you are asked to leave, you will have to go because you don't own the land, unfortunately. you know yeah. So can widows, it doesn't really say that it's not challengeable. Okay, so let's not give the tribal office like almost like a dictatorship kind of power that says that it's them and us kind of thing. This is communal land. This land belongs to the people of South Africa, okay? Unless it's like under a particular private trust, or yeah, otherwise it belongs to the people. We really just occupy and share the space as the people. We know our story of where we come from, and that's where we are today because of that. So we share that land in ways that we occupy it and hold it, but not necessarily buy it in that sense. But it's not a them and us. They are just custodians. They are there to just, guide the community. It's very important that you are respectful, yeah. So, can widows or single women have their land taken away? Once again, it's not a dictatorship where they rule over us in a sense. I don't have personal experience of widows or single women having their land taken away. If anything, in my family, for one, the land has been in our family for 3 going on 4 generations, because I have now added a person to the lineage, right? Um, it hasn't been taken away, even when there was a widow. in the process, right? Even when that widow then passed on, nothing has happened. No disruption has even taken place through all of those stages that have happened. So no land has been taken away from my personal experience at all. It might be different in maybe a community that you know of. If you know, please share in the comments for the benefit of everyone. We maybe put Bamidele to kind of give her some peace and rest about whether this is something she should concern herself with, you know, or not, that is. Yeah, so we are at an hour 15 minutes. I am really looking forward, and I'm going to share the link again to chatting with someone live on here. So I just shared the link again in the bio. If you, in the not the bio, not the bio. I keep saying the bio, the comments. If you just want to come on live and chat with me, maybe give me a sense of your experience, maybe give someone advice. Happy. I'd be very, very grateful for you to do that. So she just sent in another question, Bamidele. What type of documents do you receive once you allocated land? Does your land have documentation since it's been inherited? Okay, perfect. So I guess those are two separate questions. I'll start with the first one. What type of documents do you receive once you were allocated land? I guess you're talking about the land that's in my family, right? So one before you're even allocated land, you apply for a PTO, right? You find the place that you're interested in and you apply for a PTO, and then the PTO has to be approved. And once it's approved, you get, some people call it a slip, but it has to be like a permission to occupy document that validly shows. I would have to go dig to find the one that's in my family, but it's there, right? And you do get documentation. Interesting question. The next question is, does your land have documentation? Remember that land isn't inherited right now, right? It isn't inherited. This is just land that has been in the family for generations up to now. No one of us has inherited it from the original occupiers of that land, right? It has just been almost seamlessly occupied on and on since the time that it was first acquired. So, like I explained at the beginning of the live, that PTOs usually go for like 99 years in these kind of situations. So that means the land could be in your family for a considerable amount of time. A considerable, and PTOs, might I add, are renewable. Okay. So it could be even longer than 99 years, right? It could be several generations, just like it is with our family for one. So she I will, because I'm currently in the saving part of my journey, what I will do is actually take you through the actual process of like acquiring the land from a traditional council, from a tribal office, right? When that process is part of my, when that process finally happens for me, which is this year, that is, without going into too much detail about where I currently am. But you do know, because I'm sharing my journey, that I am currently in the planning stage. I am saving vigorously for this process, but because it's something that I'm trying to do carefully, because it's something that I'm trying to do carefully, I have decided to save first. There are people who acquire the land first and then save after. We do this thing differently. It's not a one size fits all. And I respect if you want to acquire the land first and then save afterwards. That's fine. But the risk is, if you want to acquire first and then save after is that your land could be reallocated to someone else. Remember what I said earlier? Your land could be reallocated to someone else. And I don't want to stand that risk. In fact, when I finally acquire land, which really it's very simple. I have to stress this in, I don't know how many, I have to stress this. It's, if you follow the right channels, like I have properly recommended, it's very easy. And you do your due diligence and you have your checklist and you have all your questions that you need to ask. It's not even going to be something that stresses you at all. It's really the easiest part of this whole journey, acquiring the land in this way. It's the easiest. It doesn't even give me sleepless nights at all because I know how easy it is. So that is my reason for not having acquired or signed a PTO, is because I am in the saving part. And once I'm happy with the savings that I have, I will want to then start building almost immediately, right? Yes. So she asked if a PTO is a colonial invention. I wouldn't go that far to say that it is a colonial invention. And my reason for that is that it's communal land. You know, I think the sentiment around what this communal land stands for, it holds weight in my mind. I don't really have any issues with how PTOs work, and you know, I really don't have any issues with it, right? So that's really because it's something that I have firsthand experience of. I know for a fact that they're not even problematic at all, and this is going on 4 generations. So yeah. She then asks, do you have a kraal in your village, or is there grazing lands in your village? Yes, we do have a kraal, and not just kraal, but we also have cattle. So we have livestock on our family property, and that is because of the size. It's vast, it's huge. You know, that's the beauty of living in a village, is that it's beautiful. You just get beautiful, sizable plots. You know, that's the nice part about it. So we do have a crop. We do have animals on the land. And does your village have its own police force? We don't have a police force, but we have what do you call this again? Um, these words are just again this thing. Is it community watch? Something CPT. I forgot what it's called. Community police patrol. Community. I guys, please in the comments. You know what I'm talking about. The patrol people. You know, the ones with the whistles. Please tell me what they're called. I get. Yeah, we have we have a community group of people that watch and patrol. That's, yeah, the simplest way I can explain it. So why is it so hard to find chief's contact information online? Because it's the rural areas, Bamidele. You know, they're not on the net just yet. Maybe they will be, but in some areas you can find information. I gave you a list that I found. Yeah, some of those lists have numbers. I wasn't sure whether I should include the numbers or not, like phone numbers, that is. So I was quite hesitant when making that video. CPF, thank you, Tebogo. Community Police Forum. Yeah, so they're not like police force kind of, you know, but they are members of the community that have a specific role, you know, with regards to like keeping safety and that sort of thing. Thank you, Teboho. My words are just escaping me today. Yeah, so I wasn't sure whether to add the contact details that I found. It just I don't know. Maybe they're old phone numbers that don't work anymore. I just wasn't sure. I needed to give you like information that is, yeah. Google says, I wonder how much it will cost to start building. Hey, 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 hey. Uh, to start building, hey guys, it's something, right? It's something. It's like a mountain that's like before you, and you're like, "Man, can I actually climb this mountain? Can I actually get to the summit? Can I get to the top?" And one of the questions that have stayed in my mind for a while now, and this is the same question, surprisingly, that somebody also who joined me on the first live said that they struggled with. And that question is, will my funds be enough? Right? Will my funds be enough? Oh my goodness. I can't even tell you how many times this has come into my mind. I ask myself if really the funds will be enough, because there's so many factors that go into whether they will be enough. For instance, like if you find yourself in the unfortunate position where the land that you have committed to is in kind of a very bad area in terms of soil, you may end up spending a lot of money on the foundation to kind of secure that that foundation, to make it strong enough to build on, right? And that's something I will kind of expand on the cost of the foundation. I'll do a cost breakdown on like the different types of foundations that are there. What I will say though is that unfortunately it's not the foundation that you get to choose. The land chooses the foundation for you. It tells you what it needs. So if you find yourself in that fortunate situation where maybe you didn't go maybe you didn't visit the area enough times to see it even in the rainy season, and you start building maybe out of excitement or something, and you find that, hey, it's a problem. Then the soil will tell you what it needs, and when the builder who you decide to go with comes, he's not going to build the most cost effective foundation. He will definitely recommend that you build the the most suitable foundation for that soil. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the question. Will my funds be enough? Yeah, it definitely. But God is a good God. Above every other thought and concern I might have, and I believe that it will work out, and I'll definitely be sharing every step of this journey, just as I have even in the planning phase, shared what I have come across and what I know, and the questions that I'm asking myself. I've shared that, and I'm grateful that we have this community now that I was also looking for, where we can share, where we are and how we're planning and building, in that sense, right? So yeah, yeah, yeah. That's where it is. Building is expensive. I don't know. Yeah, I have a budget in mind. It's very important to have a budget in mind, and we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. I'll share my stresses with you. You will be with me on this journey. When I'm stressed, you will see that day it's bad, and you will see how much it all costs. Step by step, from literally acquiring that land. I'll definitely walk with you to that tribal office and show you how seamless, how easy this process is. It's not something to concern yourself about. Just do your due diligence and you will acquire this land without any issues whatsoever, right? As long as there are no legal disputes over the land and you're happy with where it is and whether there's water and electricity, honestly, the admin part is very seamless, especially if you are working with people that are not corrupt or money hungry or anything like that, and who are definitely not scammers. I think you should be very aware of scammers, especially Facebook. If you want to acquire land in the rural area, stay away from Facebook. Please stay away from Facebook. Stay away from Facebook Marketplace. People may share success stories of having acquired land that way. I don't know, but I don't trust it at all. And I'm not in a rush enough to just take anyone's offer. Yeah. So one village that I know of, it's a new one that has, I think people started occupying that place maybe in 20, I don't know, after 2010, if I can say that. That's recent if we're talking village terms. If we're talking like rural area terms, 2010 is like yesterday. We're talking about areas where people have lived for generations. Yeah. Not like new areas that you see on like Facebook Marketplace where people start occupying and maybe putting like temporary shelters and maybe demarcating a fancy and gate and saying, hey, I'm gonna build, and then that sort of thing. No, and you find those areas are kind of crime ridden. Hey, they're not the same as the ones that I know of, like at all. They're really hubs for so much crime because these are people from so many places that are just coming together in one. It can get messy. It really can. It can get really, really messy. And moreover, you find that in those places, like there's no electricity, so it's dark at night, like pitch black. You know what I mean? So hey, it gets really, really dangerous. So that area, it doesn't have electricity, and the municipality has not even connected water. It's opposite the village where my family home is situated. So because it's opposite, they have done the illegal connection of electricity to that other new village, if you will, where people are now living, but there isn't electricity. So the issue here is that area. I've lost my train of thought. I'm very sorry. Yeah. So that area is kind of problematic in the sense that the people living there don't know if there's a dispute currently on that land. That's why the due diligence is so important. I've had one particular person tell me that there is a chance, a possibility that they would have to move away from that land and then have that land restored. And by restore, I mean demolish the houses that are already built on that particular land. So I say joke. It's not a joke. It's something I know of personally. So that's why it's very important to be very, very careful, especially about these Facebook marketplace. I know someone who knows someone, and especially buying from private buyers, unless it's like a deeds office land that is on the deeds registry. Oh, by all means, if you're not getting scammed by an estate agent or an attorney, that's fine. That's fine. Happy to go with that. But you still have to be careful, even with that sort of route, because, some lawyers are criminals. Let's not go into that. But you know what I mean, right? And some estate agents too. Yeah. So that's that. The due diligence is important. So after all the cautions and the checklist that you've kind of done, you may ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth living in a rural area? And honestly, I just want to share that for many of us who are familiar with rural areas, it absolutely is. It's worth it. It's worth it in every way. I can't even explain. The land in that area, it gives you freedom. It gives you the chance to build something lasting that you can have in your family for generations, that you can seamlessly, without worry, pass on to your children and your children's children, and have it, it's like a bamboo tree. Is it oh, no, not bamboo. But again, this thing, that old African tree, baobab, né? Yeah, baobab tree. That you can enjoy the shade for generations on end, right? It gives you a chance to build something lasting. It gives you a place that is yours where you can slow down, live intentionally, and raise your kids without the pressure of the city, right? Yeah, that's why it's worth it, at least for me. So that's why it's worth it. It does come with responsibilities. It needs you to be cautious, but for me, the rewards are priceless. I have had the joy of living in this kind of area firsthand, and I know that it's not something to worry about at all. So, do we have any more questions? We're kind of at the 1 hour 40 minute mark of the live. Because this is an audio live, and somebody who may be watching the replay would ask themselves, like, what was the engagement on the live? I would really love to have you join me and let's have a chat. Let's have a chat. I'll drop the link again. Do you need me to do that? Drop the link again in the comments, and perhaps you can come in and just join me for like a minute or two and just talk to me about where your mindset is, and maybe we can even go into maybe just briefly the cost of building and where you are on that journey, if that's what you're comfortable with to share, right? Yeah, in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. The link is in the bio. Some people who have joined me live the previous weekends have struggled with like connecting the microphones. I hope that's not the same situation today, because this live has been quite fruitful. Like, if you still have any questions that you need me to answer or maybe clarify you on, I'm happy to do that, honestly. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Let's see. So I don't even know how to share the checklist on the live, but I think I'll share the checklist like in the comment section of that video if you would appreciate it. And you can just, keep it with you, maybe in the notes part of your phone, and just use it whenever you go to either a tribal office or anywhere, and ask yourself these questions and keep them in the front of your mind. Don't forget them. They're very, very important. Yeah. I can't stress enough how important it is to have that document, have the PTO as a document, and always, always, always keep proof of whatever payment you have made. And by payment, I use that word loosely, because I want to emphasize that we are not paying, we're not buying, we're simply asking to be part of the community. So whatever fee you have given to the tribal office, keep that as a record for yourself. Keep it close. Yeah, keep it close. Don't lose any of that. It's very important that you keep it close in case there's like a dispute or anything that could happen. Then you would know that you're kind of covered. You know where you stand. You know your story. And yeah, documents are very, very important, especially in this kind of thing. And I would even go so far as saying, even when you start building, right? Even when you get an estimate from a builder, don't go for the estimate per se. Just get a quote, right? Because once somebody gives you a quote, they have given you like something written. They've given you a locked in price. But if you have an estimate, it's just that they can simply change it anytime and say, hey, something, we need X and Y, we need more cement, we need more bricks, or whatever the case may be. And you find that because of, having agreed just by word of mouth, or just not word of mouth, just by the verbal agreement, you find that it's easy for someone to change that. So yes, documents sometimes make people uncomfortable, but they're important. You know what I mean? They're important for us to know where we stand, and for us not to go back on the agreements that we set. Yeah, I may be very nonchalant about it, but I'm quite serious when it comes to things like this. Yeah, very, very serious. If we don't agree on paper, then the deal is off. It's as simple as that. The deal is off. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I just dropped the link in the comments. If you have any questions, you're welcome to join the live directly and have a chat with me. I'm happy to answer any questions, maybe clarify further for you if you have, things that concern you. If you've just joined the live, you're welcome to do that. The link is in the comments, right? Right. Okay, perfect. So just one more thing before we kind of wrap up. I just want to remind you that, or even caution you that, what we have shared on this live is not set in stone. These things change, and they don't change very often, but they sometimes change, right? And they're also different from community to community. So what happens in Venda, for one, may not necessarily be the same with what happens in in Page, for another example. Or what happens in Page may not be the same as what happens in Brits. What happens in Brits may not be the same as what happens in, I don't know, Mzimkhulu, if you will. These things are, they're very, they're different. That's why it's important to go there personally yourself, so that you can hear with your own ears what the story is about, that area that you're interested in. So another one I just want to share, you know, just by the way, you can go on Google Maps if you don't really know where you want to live. And that, why I say this is because if you are in Gauteng, for one, that might be very difficult for you to always drive out to places and, just go and check. It's not always easy. Um, it's not always easy for you to do that. We have time constraints, we have work, we have kids, we have so many things that keep us busy that we're not always able to do that. So use Google Maps, go on Google Maps and check from your vicinity where you are, how far out are you from the nearest rural settlement, if I can call it that. How far are you? And you can then see, how Google Maps is. You can then see it won't always work out because these places haven't been they haven't been shot by Google. They don't have, like, how cities, you can see a street, you can see your nearest Spar or Pick and Pay, you can see what's close by. That's why it's so easy for you to get directions, or even, do it, have a GPS on your phone or in your car when you go around urban areas, because they've been shot, they are documented in a sense. But these places in the village are not. So the best bet you have when you use Google Maps, I'm speaking to people who are in Gauteng or in urban areas who are very busy, who don't have time to go to places and check themselves what's happening because of time constraints, because of kids, because of other commitments, that you can use Google Maps, and that can help you, give you just a rough idea. You may not even have like a street view, but just an aerial idea of like where you are or where that area is. I beg your pardon. Right. And then that gives you like a sense of like, okay, no, it might be possible. And even tribal authorities or tribal councils in that area, you can even maybe check that on Google Maps. If you can find that information, it may be that, things like community libraries and clinics are often like pinpointed on Google Maps. It's easy to find like a community library in the village where my family resides. For one, you may not see the street view. It's not possible on Google Maps, but you can get like a community library that's close to, you know, it's easy to get like a community library because that has been pinpointed. I don't know what the word is. I'm not familiar with GPSs, by Google, and you can then see how far it is from the area. It's just my 2 cents for those that don't have the time to go to these villages themselves, right? Yeah. Something has kind of happened with my comments section. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Um, see if we have any new questions. Oh, okay. We don't have any new questions. Um, oh, we do actually. I didn't answer this one. So Bamidelis asked, does a surveyor come to the village when the land is demarcated? What tools does the chief use to demarcate the land? Okay, great. So the surveyor part is the municipality's job, right? To survey the land and to allocate what is known as earths, right? Yeah, what is known as earths, which are like stand numbers and like a list of like that particular area will have a list of stand numbers, and your area will have a number allocated for that particular stand when it has been surveyed, right? And portioned off. So, what tools does the chief use to demarcate the land? So this may depend from village to village, but usually they kind of just put either a rock. I'm serious. It's not even what. Hey, yo, these things study rural areas. Anyway, put a rock or maybe even a branch of a tree to demarcate from here to there. That's as simple as it really is. In the rural area, it's nothing more than that. I forgot to mention that it's important for you to be familiar with sizes of plots, right? The size of the plot that you want. You must be familiar with that because they will ask you how big of a plot do you want? Do you want a 40 by 40 meter plot? Maybe a 35 by 35 or 20 by 25 by 30. It depends. You have to be familiar with how big these areas, these numbers are, like these sizes, I mean, right? So I don't know. How can I help you with this? Um, I don't know because it wouldn't be easy to measure like a 40 by 40 meter plot like yourself. You know, it's not like walking across a room in a house. It's not the same. You would, I don't know, someone who is kind of technical, and maybe you could share how someone could measure out like a 40 by 40 meter plot. Yeah. So Garaba just joined. She says, hi, Sedi. I joined late. I'd like to know if you're going to share this live as a video after. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I definitely am going to keep this live on the channel afterwards. Yeah, we shared some very valuable information in this live. It would be an injustice for anyone who watches the replay or who comes late like Garabo, which I understand, to not be able to get the information that we shared on this live. It would truly be shame, a bad thing. So I'm definitely going to keep it on the channel after this. So you can watch it even as a replay anytime while you drive or iron or feed your child. Or yeah, this is an audio live that we have. I'm going to share it for sure. All right. So as I was saying, they really demarcated very easily, just like that. It could be a rock or a stone that they put one point and another one and another point. I mentioned in this live how important it is to know the four corners of your stand. So Google just asked, if there was something precious? Wow, very interesting question. Hey, Google, you're thinking very far. Wow, Google. I love your thinking. Google is already thinking of wealth and how life is going to change. Okay, perfect. Like if there was like gold found on like your land, or maybe even precious diamonds or platinum if you're in the northwest, right? Um, if there was something precious found under your stand in the ground that your land is on, it belongs to the community since you don't own the land. Correct? That is her question. So I'll just give you one example that I know of, right? And you may share some more in the comments. Perhaps this is something different. For instance, in Northwest, Le Khalong, for one, is a village in Rustenburg. That village is under the Royal Bafokeng authority, that is. And the Royal Bafokeng, kind of like the Ingonyama Trust, kind of operates in a similar way, where, yes, it's communal, but I think there are elements of like private owned land in a way. So because we really are landholders and not land owners, I would stand corrected, but I would say that you would not be able to say that that precious resource, be it a mineral of some sort, belongs to you. It would then belong to the community, just like the platinum that is in the Northwest belongs to, should I say the community? But you know how it is. Where there is a Kosi, it kind of feels like it belongs to the Kosi more than it feels like it belongs to the people. Hey, South Africa. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's that way. It's that way sometimes. But funny question. I really found that quite humorous, Google, that you thought that far. I never thought about that at all. Yeah. I guess maybe. So we are in the last 9 minutes of the live. Once again, if you are itching to share something with me, you're welcome to click the link in the comments and chat with me. I'd be very happy to hear your sentiments, maybe your thoughts, experience, advice. Anyone, I'm sure would appreciate that as well. Right? I'm really happy that this live happened in this way. It's been really, really fruitful. The last point that I shared is how important it is to know the four corners. It's important. Please do that. Just please know the four corners. As much as the demarcations may not be like those of a surveyor in a township, if you will, or an urban area of some kind, it's still important that you take your time to ask the brave questions of like, okay, so how far does my land go? Where do I, yeah, yeah. So that's very, very important. Any more questions? I'd really appreciate your input as well. I'm so grateful that we shared what we shared today. We are almost nearing the end of the live. Yeah, we're almost nearing the end of the live. So on Monday, I will be sharing a video on the cash build card, right? The cash build card and other building material savings options that are out there. So the cash build card has been a contentious one because a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't really bother with it because you can't really buy anywhere else other than cash build. What if you want to compare what's this prices and you can only buy at cash build, so it's pretty much useless. And I really beg to differ. I really, really beg to differ. Like, this journey is so steep, ne? It's so steep that you need, like, unless you are really resourced, like unali telet, then you may not even need a cash build card. But I need a cash build card, and I'm going to be honest about that. I need a cash build card, and that's why I opened one, and that's why I'm saving even in the cash build card. I'm saving still in the 32 days notice account, yes, but I'm also saving in the cash build card. And because that card can only be used at cash build, that's why I love it. That part that people don't like about it is why I like it, because you can't use it anywhere else. You can't even get the money out. So if you're really serious about building without debt, right? Number one, and you're building at your own pace. We're not competing with anyone here. You're building at your own pace. it's helpful to have that as your arsenal, a card in your back pocket. Put something, throw something away every month, even if it's 300 rand. You don't even have to go very far with how much you put in that card, but have it there if you know that you want to build without debt. You need strategies to do this thing successfully. Otherwise, you know, yeah, you kind of can get stuck along the way. Like one person shared with me on the first live that one of the questions that they ask themselves is whether they will have enough funds, whether their funds will be enough. That question keeps them up at night, right? Kennedy shared in the comments. Kennedy, hi. If you're here, it's just, yeah, hi. I really valued your input on the first live. I'm so grateful that you came on. Yeah, so that cash book, it's important, and the other building material savings options are also important, and I listed all of them in that video. So if you know that you need a strategy of how to tackle this huge dream that you have of building a home for you and maybe even your children, then you know that you have several options that you can use, you know. And I thought it would be helpful to kind of share those options as well with the community so we can all see which ones we pick and use. My personal favorite is the cash build one, and there are other ones that I am considering using, which I shared in the video. Yeah, so Nelisiwa just said, I can't wait for that video. Yeah, that video is coming on Monday. So yeah, look out for that. Building without debt. God help me. Yes, build, yeah, you know, it helps to not build without debt. It helps you get a sense of relief that you know it's done. You don't have to worry. You don't have to pay anyone back. You're free. You know, it takes time. It's slower for sure. For most of us, it is, and it requires you to build in phases, maybe over like 3 or 5 years, or even 10 years, as I've seen in some places. But you're done. You know, you don't owe anyone anything, you know, and it helps because the interest on these loans are ridiculous. You will end up paying double or even triple the amount that you borrowed at the beginning, right? So um so we are nearing the end of the live, right? So I hope you're feeling more confident. I hope you're feeling more informed about this process and more excited about the possibilities that rural and semi-rural land offer. It's very seamless if you follow my humble recommendation. And I say humble not because I know it all, but I'm just saying it's something that I have personal experience with, and it shouldn't be something that trips you up where you can say I got scammed or I almost got scammed. So due diligence and saying I'm going there myself. I want to hear this for myself. You know, yeah, that can really help. It goes a long way. So if you enjoyed today's live, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps grow our community of future home builders. And if you're watching the live and you haven't subscribed, please do, because this is just the beginning of many powerful conversations that we're going to have together. We really are. We're gonna still talk a lot, right? And I really wish all of us the best on this journey. We're gonna do it. I'm confident about that. As long as we share the information and we help each other, we're gonna do it. So don't forget, tomorrow at 4 p.m. we have Tusang Sunday. So if you have nuggets of advice and you know that you've been through a situation of some kind in this journey, you're welcome to join that live tomorrow. That is our community support session where we take real life dilemmas. These are emails that I receive ever since that video about whether 100,000 rand is enough. I have received so many messages that Tusang essentially was born. Tusang Sunday, our community support session. We share advice and we build each other up. We talk about those quiet questions that we ask ourselves at 3 a.m. in the morning. That's what Tusang Sunday is about. So yeah, that's where we are. I hope to see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Yeah, thank you so much for being part of this live today and spending Saturday with me, your Saturday with me. I'm really grateful. So stay safe and remember that building is not just about saving and everything. It really is that it's a journey, I get, and we're walking it together. It's about building a life. So I'll see you tomorrow. I'm so grateful that you joined me. Yeah. So Karabu just said before I close the live, I don't know if it was touched on. Do I have to get different lands for residential and livestock farming if I want both? This is something you, like I said, go to the tribal office yourself, ask what kind of land they have. So land for residential and livestock farming are two different because livestock needs a grazing land. So that itself is completely different from like residential land. So that means you would need like vast amounts of like hectares. We're talking hectares. We're not talking meters anymore. We're talking hectares of land, yeah. Bye. Nelisiwe. Bye. Thank you so much for joining the live. And so also Teboho, thank you so much for coming on and sharing what you shared today. I'm so grateful. So Karabo said, can I get one big land to accommodate livestock? It is possible. It is possible. I'll share this one nugget. This is from personal experience. I told one of the other people who sent me a question about whether you can have livestock or cattle on the land, and I said that on my family land there is livestock. So because there is livestock, the livestock is on the land. By on the land, I mean, hey, I feel like I don't know the right English words to say when talking about livestock. The cows, ne? They go out to graze far from the residential area. The cows have mudisa, okay? Okay? And because mudisa takes the cows out, mudisa brings the cows back. And then they stay. I don't know the right English words, Garaba. I'm very sorry. The data bundles are finished. But you get what I mean. The cows go out and the cows come back. But the cows don't graze in the yard. They do sometimes. It depends. If, it's winter and it's very dry, sometimes they do graze and the land is huge. But you know how even with land that is big, when you have livestock, it will just look like there's nothing because animals that graze need like vast hectares and hectares of land. You even have to move them around to kind of let the grass recover, and grow again. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. I'm happy. Karabo says she thinks that she understands. I don't have the English words. I hope you understand what I just explained. But thank you so much, Gugu. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see Nelly Siwe tomorrow if you have time. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining today. Have a good evening. Keep warm. It's cold. Keep warm. Okay? Yeah. Take care. Bye.